Here we are with the grid that we made, and it's in its November, the year, the days are in line, the numbers are all set up so that we're there. There's one other thing I'm going to do to it before I take it over to um, Photoshop is I'm going to select all of the information here, and especially all of the letters, and I'm going to go up to type and I'm going to say create outlines. Now they're all outlines, and it's going to hold up better when I take it to Photoshop, especially if it's got different fonts on a different computer or whatever. But that gives me that lettering now as black letter on white. I really don't need the grid anymore. I'm not going to print the grid on the final calendar because I'm not trying to write things in this grid because it's going to be a decorative calendar. So I need to come through here and pick out all these squares that I built, and don't eliminate any numbers, but eliminate, if you can get a hold of them, the grid patterns that was there to help you put it together. So I'm just coming through with very narrow marquees and picking up only, not the numbers themselves, but only the grids that are on the artboard here. So now I'm getting through just those very narrow grids, picking up just the lines that formed those squares, and now I have that as what I'm going to take across. So now I'm going to select everything again and hit Command C and copy it. Then I'm going to go to Photoshop, and I've got my tree picture set there, and I've got the canvas is 8.5 by 11 canvas background, and I've got the picture fitting. There's the picture on the background fitting, and then in the numbers area that is blank for the moment, I'm going to insert those numbers that I just copied from Illustrator. So Command V and put them in as pixels, not smart object, but pixels. Choose pixels and hit OK. And they'll come in as black. This diagonal line says that's where you want them, is at the right size. And I have sized it for an 8.5 by 11. I can move this down a little bit so that it's resting towards the bottom, and it's centered. But I'm putting it in place, and then I'm going to say to my move tool, click on that, and it says place. And now the diagonal goes away, and those things are in place. Now, of course, I can't read them very well, so let's make them all a color. To do that, I'm going to take my magic wand tool. I'm just going to select any one of these black numbers, just that 0 right there. And then I'm going to go up to select and say, give me all the similar on that layer. See, I'm on layer 1. Actually, it made its own layer here. It didn't put on my numbers, but it's layer 1 right here. And I've selected similar, and I get all the black. Now, I was using a color, not a black, but a sort of a beige. So I'll come down here and I'll get into the low oranges and select a beige color and hit OK. And now that beige color is here in my foreground color. I hit the Option key and the Delete key, and that puts the foreground color everywhere those ants are marching. Okay, so now I've got that done. There's one other thing I'm going to look at. I'm going to Command D, take the ants off. I'm going to go over here to my layers and make that numbers. And this layer I don't need. I'll just take it away. Sometimes it makes its own layer when you bring things over and place it, and then you have to like rename it. But be sure you're on the right layer and it is named properly. Now I might say, okay, I like the numbers there, but I can't read them all that well. So I'm going to select my numbers again, just the one of them, and say select, give me all the similar, not similar layers, but similar. And there are the marching ants again. And now I'm going to come down here to my tool that gives me my filters and say give me a drop shadow, and the drop shadow box comes up. I'll move it off the side so I can see it. I'm going to have my light coming from the upper left, give it a little bit of spread and a little bit of size, and that maybe even some distance. That gives me a little action here with the darkness that the drop shadow is going to create here. That's going to help push the letters out a ways. I'm not trying to put a shadow on the tree or a limb or a leaf. I just push it out a ways. and then I hit OK, and I've got Command D. Now I've got the shadows there. So there's the drop shadow, there's without, there's with. Turn this light on and off here, or the eyeball on and off, and it'll take the effect in and out. And that's going to do me, except that I'm looking at November and I want that to be a different color. So I'm going to take, this time I'll just hit the N on November and hold the shift key down, and I can't say similar, it'll give me all of them. I'm just going to come through and click once with my magic wand on the word November, and then I'm going to change that to a brighter orange. That's the foreground color, and again, Option Delete puts the foreground color in. And so now I've got Command D, take out the ants. I've got November doing that. And if I wanted to change the days of the week or the year, I could say, okay, give me the year, and select those with a shift key down one at a time, and make that a what's going to go good with that green? Maybe a really gunky lime green. And Command Option Delete puts that gunky color in there, and then now we're getting more color added, and the colors are somewhat coordinated with the picture in the background. Even though there's no orange back there, it looks good with it. And if I wanted to take the time to come through and make all the numbers a different color, there's maybe a faster way to do that. Would be, rather than select every letter therein, is to shift it to another layer and then take on that layer. For example, if I came here, I'm still on the numbers layer, and I took a marquee and selected all the days of the week. Now don't get anything else, just those days of the week. Now see, this is numbers here. I'm going to Command C on numbers, and then just below numbers here in image, I'm going to select that and put another layer there, and that layer I'm going to call it days. And now I've selected days on numbers. Command C, I selected on this layer numbers, and then I'm going to go to days and Command V and put them on that layer. And for some reason they jumped a little bit, but I'll fix that. Okay, there's my days one. I'm going to just watch what I'm doing here. I'm going to do numbers, or arrow key, and I'm going to go to the move tool and move those over, so they're just sort of on top or underneath behind the original one. I'm not sure why they jumped, but they were originally lined up, so I'm using my arrow keys to get that there. Now I got to get rid of the numbers on the days on the numbers, so I'm turning off the days I see here and going back to numbers and taking another marquee and covering those days again, and just delete those. Now they're off that layer, but when I bring them back here, there they are. See, I put them on a new layer. Now I want to change those colors, so I go to my tool, I'm on that layer now, the days, and select all the negative space. Just hit anything outside the negative, and of course all the little spaces inside has to be done, so you hit select, similar, and it picks up all the negative space inside and out of just the days layer. And then I go back to select and say inverse, and now I've got just those guys, and the color, let's just say I'm going to make them this white. So Option Delete, I made white the foreground color. Option Delete puts the foreground color in there, and say, well, maybe I don't want white. Let's look at maybe a mustard brown. Okay, now they're still being marched by the ants, so Option Delete with that foreground color, and there they go. And then I say, okay, Command D, and off we are with that. That might not be my best choice. I can go back one, Command Z, and pick them up again and say, let's see, do I want white, or do I want something that shows up? How about blue's not going to work out for me. Let's go back to white for now. I'll think of something that I like, or I'll play with it a little bit. But going there and then turning things off now, I've got the days, different color, the months, the year, and the numbers themselves. Now, I wasn't quite careful right here. I'm not going to go back to do it, but see how I nicked that 2 right there? Make sure you're not nicking anything. I nicked the 3 as well, and the 6. Sometimes these circular letters get a little higher than the others, so make your marquee not quite as as wide as I made it to get the job done. But now we have the calendar, the numbers, the days, the image, and eventually we will save it as this with all the layers, and then eventually I'll save it again as a flattened image, so that that's what I'm seeing as just a flat image to make this screen work. But that's making 1 month. Now, of course, the next month you'd have to get a different rack of days, go back to Adobe Illustrator and change the month and change the days around on not this one where I changed the outline. I've kept all these things. Here's the center grid that has the numbers in them. Or actually what I've done is I've kept the first one, and it's all 30-30, and I'd come back and just take it out again and put it in the next month and the days of the week, and there we go. So it's a process that you have to go through for 12 of them. Now, maybe you're making a series of 6 in a catalog, or you're making a menu or something. You weren't running into these formulas and formats all the time in this business. But when you get to the point where you can organize them and have same, only different, then you're saving yourself a lot of time. Now, your assignment here is to make 3 months. I don't care which 3 you do, and I don't care which year you do, and I don't care, how many days there are. You can figure out the days. But just do 3 different months and get 3 different pictures, images for the background. Remember that you've got to have the image so that it's not conflicting. In this case, I used the drop shadow so that the confliction with the background, Darton-like background, would be lessened. But you still want some nice area up in here that's part of the picture, whether it's sky or mountains or tops of trees or whatever. Picture selection is important in the overall effect of making this calendar.